I know. I'm just trying to keep it real. That's why you're my guest, is to get some real shit.
Yeah.
This is Eddie on the Go.
Hello YouTube, I'm your host Eddie, and in today's video I have here as my guest my friend Chinedu Opara. Chinedu was born in Nigeria but lived most of his life in the United States until last year, and now he lives here in Barranquilla, Colombia. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, Chinedu, welcome, and thank you for being my first interviewee.
Thank you for having me. This is quite an interesting thing. I'm glad to be part of your channel.
So, okay, I've already introduced you by name to our viewers. Can you give us your age and what you do for a living?
All right, well, I am almost 49 years old. I'm a software developer by career, and also teach English as a second language a few days a week to private students. Mostly here in Colombia.
What is it like working remotely in a country like Colombia? Are there pros and cons you could tell us about?
Well, the advantages are the same as the advantages in any other country, which is you get to have more or less flexible hours. I can have time to go to the gym in the morning before I start work because I don't have to commute. And of course, the cost of living factors into the whole advantage of working from Colombia. And I'll get to that a little later in the interview.
When did you first visit Colombia and decide you might want to live here?
All right, well, the story of my decision to move here is quite interesting but straightforward. In 2021, in the height of the pandemic, in the height or towards the ending, I think it was towards the ending, when a few countries were starting to open up, but most were still closed. So for several reasons, which we'll get into later in the interview, I decided to move out of the USA, and based on some research I did online, I picked Colombia as the best choice. And I started learning Spanish on July 1st, and I haven't stopped since then. So I visited Cartagena for 2 weeks. Very first time in Colombia was for 2 weeks in July 2021. And I followed up with a 3-month stay here in Barranquilla last year, 2022, from April to June, almost exactly 3 months actually. And then, to give me the full living experience, catching the bus, buying things, looking for an apartment, all those things, opening a bank account, getting cell phone service. And then I went back to the USA to sell off all my crap, my big old house, my luxury prison. I call it my luxury prison. Sold my car, closed a bunch of accounts, sold almost everything except for 5 big suitcases, which I filled up with some mostly gadgets, mostly computer stuff, and some clothes, of course. And yeah, I moved here in November of 2022, and I've been in Barranquilla since then. Of course, I traveled around the country, especially recently. Went to Medellin, Bogota, Cali, and Cartagena again. But as of now, I am based here in Barranquilla.
What are some of the challenges that you have faced as a foreigner living here in Colombia?
It's a good question. I wish I had written down a whole list, but I can talk about it, give a little summary. I would say some of the challenges are the language, obviously, the language and cultural differences. My language, my Espanol is still at el nivel B1, officially B1. But in reality, it's more like A2, simply because I live on the coast where they speak Costeñol.
Yeah.
And Costeñol is very difficult to understand.
Right.
Well, there's good news. The good news is 2 parts. The good news is the stores have tons of spices. You can go to any Olímpica, which is a very common grocery store here in Barranquilla. But all the stores, Éxito, Carulla, Jumbo Americano, in all of Colombia, almost all of Colombia, they have spices at shops, entire aisle full of spices and salsas, amazing flavors. Obviously, those aren't being sold to locals. They're being sold to us, to extranjeros and other people. Secondly, if you go to the tourist cities like Cartagena and Medellin and Bogota, which is an international city, most likely you'll find more variety of food, more options, tastier, juicier, spicier cuisine. You probably won't find, I haven't found Nigerian food or Liberian food or Jamaican food, but I found Indian food in Bogota. Like I was telling you before, I posted a Google review about it because it damn near brought me to tears. I was so happy.
I remember that day.
To find Indian food in Bogota. In all of Colombia, I found Indian food. I'm like, oh my God, I was so happy. My stomach was so happy. Everything was so happy. Yeah, and if I go back to Bogota, that might be one reason I go back. But yeah, Bogota, Medellin, Cartagena, you're most likely to find more food options there.
So, on the subject of culture and language, what are your thoughts about the culture in the city of Barranquilla compared to the other cities in Colombia that you've been to? And what are your thoughts on the differences in language, including dialect and accents between the areas of Colombia?
Right, I can talk very specifically about language. And so it turns out that various parts of Colombia speak various dialects of Spanish. And there's Paisa in the interior, mostly in the interior, that I know of. And then there's Costeño here on the north coast. And I've been learning standard Spanish, which did not, and still does not, help me to understand or speak Costeño.
That's a different animal.
Yeah, it's, in fact, I always make the joke, the half joke, but also true. When I'm speaking to cab drivers and stuff, I'm like, el problema es costeño, no es español. And they're laughing, they get it, they understand how difficult it can be. My Spanish level is at officially B1, as I said earlier, but because of my difficulty with costeño, it's actually more functionally more like A2, maybe even upper A1. In my travels to Medellin, Bogota, and Cali, I was having complete conversations in Spanish, especially in Cali. Something that I couldn't do on the coast here in Barranquilla, nor in Cartagena. I heard that the costeño in Cartagena is actually worse.
I've heard the same thing.
And now that people have told me this, now it makes sense. True story. On my first visit to Colombia in Cartagena 2021, this one young lady I dated, I was very naive. I thought she had a speech disability. Real talk. Because I'm fresh, just starting to learn Spanish, using Duolingo, Spanish Dict, Turbo Spanish, other apps, learning and listening to Spanish language broadcast news, and they try to keep their accents neutral. So here is this woman talking to the cab drivers, and they understand her just fine. And she's speaking to me in Costeño. I didn't know it was Costeño at the time. I thought she had a speech disability. I felt so bad. at the time, and then later when I found out that it wasn't a speech disability, that it was just a heavy Costeño accent, I felt worse. I felt stupid.
It's crazy here because I have been with Uber drivers, and some I've been with like a couple that were they speak pretty good Spanglish. We kind of can meet halfway and have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And then there's some that speak more rough, and some that speak less so. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's hard. Even my obrero, my handyman, he's from some smaller town here on the coast, and he's even like he's my bilingual assistant says that's still Costeño, but I swear my handyman, whatever he's speaking, I don't think it's even Spanish, bro.
Oh, there's people that you think it's like some native tongue.
Yeah, because I'm putting my phone up to his mouth. So I do have to mention one more thing about culture, since you asked, and this doesn't fit into any other topic, so I'll mention it now. The Colombian sense of time is very different. Their sense of time is, I'll put it mildly, I'll put it in a friendly way, is fluid. Very fluid. They don't, especially appointments.
Restaurants.
The time
it takes to be served.
Yeah,
usually.
That's just bad customer service. But just in general.
But I mean, I've seen that a lot here.
Yes. That they all go together. Right?
Like they have to kill the cow. And I guess there's even an expression here for that.
They all go together. The sense of time. It's a very laid back. And folks say laid back. I don't know if laid back is the right term, because some parts of the USA and they say Europe, they're laid back, but they know how the fuck to keep to appointments. They know how to get to shit on time. But when they're not on appointment, they're laid back, right? The thing is, and I don't want to use the word lazy either, because I know Colombians will see this and like, oh, he's dissing our people, we're not lazy. No, I'm saying that there's a certain mindset, a certain cultural difference between Colombia and much of Latin America, I heard, and the Western, more modernized countries, and that is sense of time. So in Colombia, now doesn't really mean now.
Ahorita.
Even right now doesn't really even mean right now.
Ahorita, good example.
You know? And I'm like, why don't you just use luego, like later?
Right.
But they keep saying ahorita, ahora. It's like, you're confusing people, you're confusing expats.
That is like a big wide, like a now, and now this is your perception of now.
Right, so ahora, which technically on the books means now, ahora mismo means right now.
Yeah.
But in real life, in real usage, ahora could mean anything from now to never.
And exactly, I've seen it said that way too.
Yeah.
And amplify that with women, from what I've always seen.
That's a whole different conversation. That's like
when a woman, when you tell a woman that you know you're going to have dinner at a certain time and she's still getting ready like 3 hours later. You know, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, no, that's
okay.
Reality.
Okay,
that is the fucking reality of.
But that's what I've seen in regards to women and getting ready for a date, because they're so centered on looking their absolute best, but that takes them longer than I think they need to do.
Yeah,
I see the women here. And you know they're beautiful. And I mean the ones that I see often here, like my friend Lisa, she doesn't need makeup. But that's usually the case with darker skinned women versus lighter skinned women. They look great to me without makeup.
Remember the interviews?
But they want to look. I know. I'm just trying to keep it real. That's why you're my guest, is to get some real shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, women put, in my opinion, women put too much time into being beautiful when sometimes
it's not necessary.
The foundation of it all is great.
Yeah, so at times it's just not necessary. But even aside from that, you have, for example, I had a situation in Guarne, which is where I stayed when I first came to this country. I stayed there for a week. And the electrician was supposed to, the Airbnb host had called an electrician to fix something. The electrician kept saying ahora, or this afternoon, or whatever, and it was never that. Eventually, he never showed up. Eventually, he showed up like the day before I was leaving. And he showed up without even calling. So we thought he had abandoned the project. We thought he ghosted. And he showed up like the day and like, oh, I had other clients. What the fuck? So you fucking tell your clients that you have clients and then you reschedule. How the fuck hard can that be?
Pero así es Panama también. Panama's the same way.
And sometimes in Nigeria too, but I'm Nigerian, so I know how to, I have the language is not an issue. I know how to deal with that shit.
That's out of the picture.
But it's not over there in Nigeria, it's not normal. It's not normal. If somebody pulls that shit, chances are somebody died. Seriously.
No, I get it.
Literally.
A valid reason.
There's a valid reason. Chances are somebody died. Because in Nigeria, they want money. The workers want money, so they'll do their best to show up on time. If they don't show up on time,
sooner.
Yeah. If they don't show up on time, from my experience in Nigeria, they'll text or call, or you call them to check where they are, and you literally hear traffic in the background. They're trying. Or you literally hear them pushing the car out of the mud because there's a mudslide or there's a rain issue.
Yeah.
So they have valid reasons.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the biggest sin is not telling the client immediately. But here, for no reason at all, no valid reason, they'll just not show up or not call, or they'll be super late and not tell anybody.
My flake with the mall situation.
Yeah. You rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. The other consideration for finding an apartment in which to live to rent is a fiador, a cosigner. If you don't have any history in Colombia, any credit history, any transaction history, in Colombia, you're going to have a fiador, which is a cosigner who's usually a local. Usually, not always. I was lucky because my cosigner was my friend Christian, who's from the U.S. like me, but he's been here much longer than I have.
Okay.
And he has history here, and they based my approval on his history. Okay. But you definitely need a cosigner, and be prepared with enough money for 6 months rent up front, because that helps them. That helps sway the decision. Oftentimes,
money talks.
Money talks, as you know, and this is they should just make that the slogan of the country. Money talks, because that's how you get shit done in this country most of the time. Is throw money at the problem,
right.
Throw money at them, and you get stuff done. So having 6 months rent up front usually helps. So A, be prepared to walk around to find a place. It's not going to be so easy to find a place. B, if you do hire a middleman to do the search for you and to find you a place in a streamlined manner, be prepared to pay a premium and or gringo price. 3, be prepared to, if you don't have any history in Colombia, which most likely you don't, if you're watching this video, you probably don't, be prepared to have a fiador or a cosigner, right, who's usually a local with good credit. And 4, be prepared to have at least 6 months rent up front. If you have a year's rent up front, even better. They see money and their eyes light up, as you know, this is Colombia. So keep those 4 things in mind, and you'll increase your chances of renting a place in Colombia. As far as buying, I haven't found the place to buy quite yet, because I've been doing a lot of research and trying to find what works for me. And I thought at first I'd get a standalone house and remodel it. But I don't think I want to live on the ground floor. I want to live up on a building. So,
less noise.
Yeah, less noise, more ventilation.
Oh yeah.
And in a building, I'll have security. I'll have more support if something goes wrong. Then the administration will take care of it usually. So I'm going to look for a place, but for now I haven't found a place. Partly because trust issues.
Yeah.
I've heard so many bad stories about people investing and buying a property, and turns out they bought somebody else's property or it's fake.
Yeah, that happens in Panama too.
Yeah. So one has to be careful. But the first step is to come and live here and rent here and get through that and understand if it's worth investing or not. Many of the listings are uncontactable, meaning you send messages or you call and nobody answers and nobody responds to messages.
Again, do you want to rent the thing out or not?
You want my money. It's like,
right.
What many people do and what I did with some success last year was I had to walk around. I had to go to the neighborhood where I wanted to live.
Signs.
And walk around and look at signs and take pictures of signs and start making calls and sending texts. A very arduous and needlessly manual and somewhat stressful way to search for a place to live, unfortunately. It is, I could give you a whole bunch of reasons why I think things are the way they are right now, but I'll tell you this much, it's not because technology doesn't exist. It's not because of that. It's a cultural thing, it's a social thing. It's just not easy to find a place to rent. So, at least not to rent at regular prices. If you want to be gringo priced, if you want a place quickly, if you want a more streamlined, straightforward way to get an apartment, you can go to Medellin and find a few, I don't know there are any honest agents in Colombia. You're going to find a few people who do this for a living, and they'll find you a place, but you will be gringo priced. That's just a given, because you're paying for the convenience of consistency of finding what you want, or finding a place.
Having a middleman.
You don't have to walk around the streets during your lunchtime or walk around at night trying to look at a place at night, see if it's safe. I only do like 2 or 3 places per day. You won't have to do that, right? But be prepared to be gringo priced. And going a step back, when you first come here, expect to pay a premium to Airbnb. You're going to have to stay in an Airbnb for at least a month, maybe 3 months, because that's how long it's going to take you to find an apartment, unfortunately. It's not the USA where you can find an apartment in 2 days.
Sure, if you're lucky. Well, depending on where you're at.
Right. But it's more streamlined, more straightforward. They put the actual price on the website. You know what you're getting. Here, not so much. Here you have to call and this and that, and you might get different prices depending on who answers the phone. You might get different prices depending on who calls. If they hear a Colombian on the other line, they're going to give you a local price. They hear a gringo on the other line, they're going to try to gringo price you, and so on.
That's why I've seen people recommend having a local friend to help out with the process. You know what they do in Panama that was interesting to learn about? Is you can have agents on each end, like the renter and the whatever, and everybody's trying to get a piece. Not just one guy, but two.
You have more opportunities to practice language.
Bingo.
Opportunities to understand the culture a little bit more, to interact with the locals, to see how the regular people think, not just how the rich folks in the rich part of town think.
Because right now, wouldn't you call that an Estrado 5 where I'm living?
Like either 4 or 5.
Because
now
that place,
I'm in a 4 here.
Okay, that place is 2 apartments to each floor. It's like 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, something like that. Plus she has a studio room which she rents out. And then the other 2 places that I was in, that were around the corner from where we ate.
Yeah.
That was a 1 bedroom and it had a washer and dryer. Yeah. The last one I went to didn't, which is what a major convenience having a washer and dryer is. Yeah, I know. So please describe for us, from your experience being here, how would you compare the cost of living between Colombia and the United States? And you spent time in other cities. How would you compare Barranquilla versus the other cities that you've visited recently?
Okay. That's a great question. Now keep in mind that this my information is based on just me. Yeah,
your personal experience. That's what I'm asking for. Okay. Because you're a person of color.
Yeah, the research I've done online before I moved here and the numbers I wrote down based on living here. So I have a very, very good idea of what the relative cost of living is. Okay, so I would say, por lo general, in general, Colombia is way less expensive than the USA. That's probably very obvious. What may not be so obvious is that there are certain cities in Colombia that are way more expensive than other cities in Colombia. So depending on your budget, where you want to live depends on your budget and your preferred lifestyle. Barranquilla is on the coast. It's one of the less expensive cities. Very close to it is Santa Marta, which is almost as inexpensive, about the same I would say, except with less amenities, it's less developed. Cartagena is on the opposite side. It is probably the most expensive city in Colombia, simply because there is this mass of tourists and expats and sexpats who go there, and so all the prices there are inflated. Speaking of inflated prices, then we have Medellin. Lots of expats there, but it seems to me that it's more affordable than Cartagena in certain areas. Everybody who's watching this probably knows about the El Poblado area.
El Poblado and La Rores.
Yeah, so those areas are kind of very, very overpriced because, especially El Poblado, is just freaking overpriced for no god.
Gringo prices.
Gringo land, as they call it.
Yeah, gringo prices.
There are literally even some prices there that are comparable to San Francisco prices.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Crazy because of all the stupidity of some of the expats who show up with wads of money. Just
so they know you can they can overcharge.
So yeah, the locals can overcharge, but that's probably been covered by other channels, so I wouldn't go into that now.
Right.
But so you have Medellin, which is, I would say, in general mid-priced. Then Bogota is also a little bit mid-priced, although a little bit more expensive, but not as expensive as Cartagena. And then the other city I visited was Cali. Cali is slightly more pricier than Barranquilla, but still less pricey, less pricey than Medellin, and definitely less pricey than Cartagena. Again, each city has rich parts and poor parts, and you can definitely be gringo priced if you act foolish. You can also get good deals if you look around, if you know what you're looking for, especially when it comes to places to live. Okay, so yeah, I would say in order of cost of living, at the top is Cartagena, followed by Medellin, followed by Bogota, followed by Cali, followed by maybe Santa Marta and Barranquilla, about the same. I've not yet visited cities like Bucaramanga or cities in the coffee triangle like Armenia. I haven't been there yet. So
Parera and those other ones.
If I ever visit there, then I'll have more numbers to share.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the food here in Colombia? How would you compare the food and restaurants overall in Barranquilla with the food and restaurants in the other cities here in Colombia that you've been to?
Well, okay.
This is what my second favorite subject we're touching on today, really.
I know. And I have a whole journal article about this, but I'll give this summary so I don't spend the whole interview talking about it. So I would say in general, Colombia is not a food culture. They're not known for tasty cuisine. They're not even known for loving cooking. In general, the culture is all about eating for sustenance, not joy or pleasure. So the food reflects their culture. It's very simple. The typical,
like a lot of Latin American, like Central American countries,
the typical
poor. So they eat basic stuff just to keep
them alive, to keep them going. So it's very unimaginative, uncreative, very simple, they just seem to lack imagination. And it's not just in food, in many things as well, but this question is about food. The local food is pretty bland. In fact, it at times for me as a West African and Nigerian, raised with.
And I just tasted something delicious he made this morning.
This morning.
African people know what the fuck.
West African.
What they're doing. Yeah, okay. We talked about that. Okay,
Togo, Liberia, Nigeria. Yeah. So we know what's up. And so having the palate for Thai food, Indian food, Nigerian food, Liberian food, and then comparing it with Colombian food, it's like, the example I give is like the first time I ate typical food in Cartagena in 2021, real talk, I don't know if I told you this, real talk, I thought I had gotten COVID.
Because you thought you lost your taste,
my sense of taste. I said, oh shit, I have COVID because I lost my sense of taste. When I asked the waitress from hot sauce, I could taste the hot sauce. Well, they had just a little bit of hot sauce. I could taste it. I'm like, oh, my taste buds are fine, most likely.
It was what you were served.
What the fuck is this food? Also, the
cheese-filled dough.
Also, the patacones, which is some kind of mashed fried plantain. It felt like cardboard, and I swear, as a baby, as a toddler, I did eat cardboard when I was a toddler, so I know what cardboard tastes like. This tasted like cardboard.
Wow.
No lie. I remember being a little kid, and like kids do eating shit.
Sure, yeah.
I remember that. I'm like, this fucking reminds me of my childhood in a bad way. It tastes like cardboard. So all this to say, the typical cuisine is not, don't come here if you're looking for tasty, amazing food. No, it's very typical, very, very simple, tasteless, bland food. If you're West African, if you're Indian, if you're Thai, you're going to get angry. Okay? But the good news, and there is good news, the good news is the stores sell spices. The stores sell spices.
But here in this region, the foods that I've eaten, like in Panama, like in the islands on the Caribbean side, it's all the stuff that was influenced by African people, the Afro-Caribbeans. They had the spicy, more flavorful stuff, the delicious sauces. That's what I came here looking for, and I found a few places that are kind of like that. But most of it's like the paisa type cooking, whatever. That's just the basic stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't understand why they don't even put fucking salt in the damn thing. Put some damn salt in the food, but they just don't even salt it.
I guess it's a cultural thing.
We just came back from a restaurant. So, like I was saying before about where the black people can enjoy being black, black spaces, no such thing exists in Colombia, at least not healthy black spaces. Go to the mall, go to the shopping centers. You will think, if aliens showed up today, they will think that Afro-Colombian people pop up as teenagers and adults out of thin air.
This is Eddie on the Go.
They generally don't like to mix with the darker skinned Colombians. So it happens, but it's not the default.
I see that in people's skin and features.
Yes.
So it does happen, but it's not the norm.
It's not the norm. It's not the norm. You'll see that it's a very colorist, classist country, which translates unfortunately into systemic racism. In spite of all the efforts that the government has taken to reduce it, but the people enforce it socially and culturally.
It's so deeply ingrained in the culture.
It's so deep.
Like racism in the South.
Yes, it's so deep
Hard
that
to kill.
many Colombians don't even know that they're racist. They don't even know, white or black. They don't know. They just think
That's all they've ever known in their life.
So I wanted to talk about the North Coast specifically because you asked. My understanding was I thought that because there are more Afro-Colombians in the North Coast, that I'll get along with them and I'll have a community, blah, blah. No. That understanding or that assumption was completely wrong for me especially. The Afro-Colombians on the North Coast of Colombia are some of the poorest and least educated, and unfortunately some of the laziest of the Afro-Colombians in the whole country. They just want to party, fuck, drink, and complain about how they're broke. Okay?
Without doing anything.
Without doing anything to improve their lives. I may sound a bit harsh, but I'm not one to mince words. I'm speaking based on observations and hard experience. I'm yet to meet professional Afro-Colombians in Barranquilla. I'm yet to meet them. I'm sure they exist somewhere.
But the deck is probably stacked against these people culturally, so if they wanted to be professional, they would probably move to like Bogota.
Right, and I was about to get to that. My travels showed me that the place where black people, black Afro-Colombians can thrive is Cali.
Oh, okay.
Right? There are more of them, and
that's right.
So the first time I moved here, actually when I visited here, I noticed something. I would see black people around, but they usually they're trotting through trash, or they're homeless, or they're day laborers. And these aren't even the black ones that look like me, they're the deep brown ones, the chocolatey, not chocolate, but like the brown.
Kind of reddish brown.
Okay, like the indigenous mixed with black.
Right.
I did see some Afro-Colombians who look like me, but they're in the Soledad area, delinquents just hanging around. Again, a few laborers, a few workers. I'm glad they have jobs. I'm glad they're doing something. That's good. I'm yet to meet a group of professional Afro-Colombians in Barranquilla. However, contrast that with Cali. When I went to Cali, I saw entire black families, middle class, well-dressed black families at shopping centers doing everyday shit.
Like you don't see here.
Like I don't see here. Right? Complete black families, mom, dad, and kids.
Yeah, everybody.
Just hanging out. Just nobody gave them a second thought. They were just part of the community. They were just normal. I saw a couple of black dudes. I don't know if they're Afro-Colombians or Africans, but they were in suits. Not entire suits, but they were very well dressed.
Yeah.
They were well put together. I don't see that here. Except for myself, my friend Christian, and one other guy who's also an expat. Right? I don't see well-dressed, professorial, educated, academic, even nerdy Afro-Colombian. Read up on Afro-Colombian history, read up on the history of slavery in Colombia, read up on the history of colonialism in Colombia. And that'll give you some hints, that'll give you some idea of some supporting stories of what I'm about to tell you. And that is that if you're a black man coming to Colombia expecting to find a good woman, a good spouse, get that idea out of your head completely. I mean, trying to find a good Well, yeah, a good spouse in general, right?
Not narrow yourself down to a certain color.
Yeah, in general, not black or white, Get that idea out of your head. Unless you're a celebrity, you're super rich, and you have
which gives you access to the cream of the crop.
Extremely good luck. That'll give you access to a different class of Colombianas, and that's where you might find a good match. But if you're that rich, you probably wouldn't need to come to Colombia anyway.
Facts.
That's the thing.
Facts.
If you're that rich, you'd probably be in Dubai, or you'd have women brought to you.
Oh yeah.
Where you live, where you want to live.
Where you don't have risk of people taking half of everything.
Exactly. Where you don't have the risk of people not even thinking about stealing your shit, of robbing you, or finding their drug lord friends to the drug war
friends robbery.
to rob you or kidnap you for ransom.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm talking about like average, not average, because average implies numbers. I would say you're non-celebrity, non-athlete, non-politician, like let's say regular Joe. You're a regular Joe, especially if you're middle-aged, if you're older than 30.
Lowers your risk of being kidnapped.
Yeah. So if you're just a regular Joe, and you're black, know this. Black people here are considered the least desirable, just like anywhere else in the world. They're considered the least desirable mates on earth, regardless of your intelligence and your kindness and how much love you have in your heart and how much education you have.
Because unfortunately, that's worldwide. It's
worldwide.
All about the lighter skinned.
It's all about
versus the darker skin.
Yes,
I've heard this from people from India, from Philippines, everywhere.
Thailand, everywhere, including the U.S. But it's in the U.S. we're in a bubble, kind of. Which one of the good things about the U.S., because we shit a lot about the U.S., but the U.S. has some good things, and that's rule of law. And one of the things that we do in the U.S. is we have said it's not okay, at least on paper, it's not okay to treat people like shit because of the skin of the color of the skin, right? We have said that. Some people obey it, some people don't, some people find ways around it, but we have that thing enshrined.
Yeah.
So people, the default behavior, so that they don't lose their jobs, is to treat you equally.
Because there's actually consequences.
Okay.
For the action.
No such consequences here in the U.S.
You mean in Colombia?
I mean here in Colombia. So that means that much of the population doesn't want to make babies with a black man. They just don't. Even the black women don't want to make babies with a black man.
It's sad.
And it's just reality.
I know.
And they're
sad.
trying to climb up the social ladder.
Because it's social conditioning.
By making a baby with even the most mediocre white man is still preferable to a stable, honest, loving, well put together, educated, protective, provider black man. Black man is still less desirable than the most mediocre, drunk, philanderer, short, white-haired, blue-eyed white man. This is how the majority of women here think, black or white. The Afro-Colombians especially, because they're trying to
elevate themselves at any cost.
Yeah, they've been bullied, they've been crapped on for the color of the skin just because of how they were born. Just like me, I get it. People like me and my friend Christian and other expats, black expats, and even African immigrants like me, we have that luxury of having been given opportunities or provided opportunities to show that we're not worthless, right? And we've taken these opportunities, and because of these opportunities, we've been able to excel and get to a point where we can say, okay, professionally at least, I'm more or less equal to everyone else.
It's so hard for me because racism is something that's taught. You're conditioned by under the roof that you're raised in.
Yeah.
And I never had any of that in my upbringing, thank God. But so therefore, I don't have that mindset. I judge people on how they treat me, what kind of individual they are, how they treat other people. And it's just sad that that's the reality of the world, though, is what you've been talking about. all that you can talk about. That is the reality of the world. It's sad.
So, like I was saying before about where the black people can enjoy being black, black spaces. No such thing exists in Colombia, at least not healthy black spaces. Go to the mall, go to the shopping centers. You will think, if aliens showed up today, they will think that Afro-Colombian people pop up as teenagers and adults out of thin air. Because where are the black babies, yo? Where are the black toddlers? Where those black adults came from somewhere. They were raised, they were born, they were toddlers at some point. Where are they? The parents don't bring them to the mall. The parents don't bring them out to the shopping centers, to the playground, or a couple of playgrounds. I've seen park, but it's always like one at the most, and it's like
the one who dared bring their child.
Who dared bring their child out. Like what? But these same women are so proud to show off the white babies. They'll bring the white baby out to the mall, and they'll take them to the park, and they'll have them in their arm, and they dress them up and do everything.
Because she sees this baby as a status symbol and a hopeful way to elevate her into society.
As a trophy baby.
Yeah.
As a trophy baby. It's like, hey, look at me. A white man stuck his dick in me. I'm awesome. A white man had his seed in me with no protection. Here's the proof. I'm not worthless after all.
Yeah, God, that is just the saddest fucking thing in the world. That people's minds are so scarred by led to do that.
Racism and being bullied and
people in the States. This is a thing that bugs me, is where you have the deniers who deny that there was the truths of colonialism and racism, and how the after effects still.
They still linger up
there today.
It's psychic scars, yo. It's also has to do with epigenetics. The psychic scars that get passed down.
Yeah.
That's why you see many. I don't want to say many. I'd say all the Afro-Colombian ladies I've met here, at least when I was trying to date, they don't see a life outside of what they're doing. They don't see a possibility of improving themselves. They don't even want to try. Learn English, learn new skills using the tools that they have.
Because they're so beaten down culturally that they don't realize there might be a way out.
There are ways, and funny enough, the government has programs.
Sure, but it's social conditioning.
But the social conditioning has put them in this position where all they can think of is get as much money as they can from extranjeros right now and try to get pregnant by a white man. Whether or not the guy even sticks around or marries them or anything, no. Just have a baby with
even
all
I've seen a lot of couples here that are together, and the people I've met on their social media, it's showing, their little family together, whether they're married or not, but they're there for the family, they're there for their kids. But like what? The divorce rate? No, not the divorce rate. What is it the single mom rate is like 84% in this country.
It's high.
That's the highest in Latin America and probably most places in the world.
Oh yeah, it's high. And when you talk
because the guys don't stick around a lot of them.
When you talk to these people, the majority of these women don't even want a guy. They don't want a stable family, a stable relationship. And again, I'm talking from experience. I've not been in the upper echelons, upper circles of Colombia. I haven't. I'm black. I don't have access.
Sure, right.
Unless I'm rich, I'm willing to throw around money, then I'll get the attention.
Then you get a chance.
Some politician, buy my way up, and I'm not about that life.
Right.
I want to cook my food, enjoy my PS3, live like a normal person, live almost like a local almost. So, but the Afro-Colombian people I've met, all they know is get money, get pregnant by a Caucasian man. They don't think about, what if I meet a fellow black man who is stable, loving?
Doesn't enter their mind.
It doesn't even cross their mind. When they meet such a person, they don't give a shit about the love or the tenderness or the ability to do. No. All they care about is how much money can I extract from this person.
Survival
right
mode
now.
in the moment.
Survival mode all the time. And it's not just limited to Afro-Colombianas, it's also in the US. Black women there do the same thing, not as badly as here, but over there they do the same thing. It's about even if they have jobs, they're conditioned to not even think about having the idea of a stable black man as a husband. They can't fathom it. Some can, more so than here.
Government policies help to tear the family apart.
Let me just end by saying that it's not just me saying this. I hope that you get a chance to interview a couple of my associates. Costa, a young white man, a British guy who's Greek.
Absolutely, if they're game, absolutely.
Yeah. I helped open his eyes about this shit. At first, he was very much in denial, telling me, "Oh, it's your fault. You're not meeting good Colombian women. You only meet the whores because that's I'm like, no, it's because of how I look and who I have access to. He didn't believe me at first until he started seeing it. I schooled him a little bit. He started seeing it. He's like, oh fuck, Chinedu was right. He started seeing how the kind of women that he can talk to who talk back to him, and the kind of things that he would experience at the gym, and when he goes on trips at hotels, the way they treat him as a Caucasian male was very different from the way he saw them.
He's the one that's also black from the States?
No,
this is the
British,
English guy.
The English guy, yeah. Costa, not Christian, Costa.
Oh, Costa, like Portuguese name.
The British guy, he's Greek.
Italian.
He's Greek. And so he started seeing it with his own two eyes. And he messaged me, remember? I sent you the screenshot.
Yeah.
He had a black woman at the gym, without prompting, pull out a picture of her white baby to show off. A trophy baby. And he was so shocked, he messaged me immediately. Another person I want you to talk to is my new friend Hillary, a very Caucasian woman from the USA. And she has been on the other side of the whole colorism thing. And I'll give you one example. This is her story to tell, but this is something that she told me, and there are more examples. I'll only tell you one. Apparently, she was at it was an event, an academic event at her house. And her ex-husband, who's a darker Colombian guy, was around. And one of the guests, who's a Colombian woman, showed up and saw her two kids. One is very light like her, like Hillary, like my friend Hillary, very Caucasian. The other one is dark like the dad. Nobody even looked at the little one. All they did, the people who came in, were so happy and congratulating the dad for improving the race by having a white baby with a white woman.
And this is the kind of shit that poisons a child's mind, making them think that they're less than.
Exactly. I have a nagging feeling.
That's dirty, man.
I hope this is not true, but I have a nagging feeling that the little one, she's too young now to understand this thing, but she's like 10 years old. The little one might have a complex growing up compared to her older sister who's blonde hair, blue eyes.
Yeah, you know it. That'll be the way.
You see? And it's
sad. It's because that's an innocent child who never did anything to hurt anyone.
Exactly.
But the world is putting that on this little kid.
Yeah. And so
putting the other one above because it's has lighter skin.
Hillary will have stories to tell you if she agrees to an interview. So imagine this is not the USA where you get cancelled for saying things like that. In Colombia, people will straight up tell you, thank you for improving the race. That they'll straight up tell you. In opposition, in contrast, my friend Christian, the New York guy who's black, his living girlfriend, she's black. She's only with him despite all the scolding and anger she's gotten from her own family about being with a fellow black man.
Wow.
It took her a long time to overcome that stigma and that anger from her. Up to today, my friend Christian, his in-laws, that's his girlfriend's, it's pretty much his wife at this point, his girlfriend's mom still doesn't even accept him as part of the family because she wanted her daughter to find and have a baby with a white man.
You know, that's one of the things I respect about at least what came out of the civil rights era, like in the 60s, the Black Panthers, all that kind of thing. black people trying to elevate themselves, be strong, to be supportive of each other. You still have problems with that, but I mean,
black people still have a unity problem all over the world, and Colombia is a prime example. Colombia is to me, that's preached black unity for a long time and been let down so hard and been so abused by my own people that I left the whole goddamn USA. Right, that's one reason I left. I'll give you the in a future interview. That's one reason I left. I was so beat down by the opposition to my ideas about black unity that I left the country, came to Colombia, and it's in my face. I'm like, oh, well.
Hey, man, the United States is so split up from different angles. It's like if you can't get one race of people to be unified with themselves against the man, against the system, whatever.
You rolling?
Yeah.
Okay. So, there is a difference between the Afro-Colombians on the coast and the north coast, and the Afro-Colombians in Cali. Most notably, there is simply a broader range of professionals, and blacks working in different types of jobs, blacks accessing more amenities and shopping and so on in Cali than here on the coast. And this could be a whole video all by itself.
Sure.
But let me just mention one more thing. Here in Barranquilla, there are a few malls that are on the north side. There is Buena Vista, there is Viva, there's Unico Mall, and there's also Alto Prado Mall. And if you go to these three malls, the top three, Buena Vista, Viva, and Unico, you rarely see black people. You rarely see Afro-Colombians.
I've been to all three.
Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about the babies, right? Let's let that. I think that's next.
But just people.
Just black people in general. You just won't see them there. And it's not about the price, because I have done price comparisons for certain things at all three malls, and it's not about the price. I believe, and also taking a bus here is $2, 2.8 mil, regardless of destination. So it's not that it's the distance either. It's just that I believe that the Afro-Colombians here are just not welcome at certain places, in certain shopping malls.
Sad.
It's sad
reality.
But in Cali, when I went to a shopping mall in one of the, not ritzy, but one of the nice parts of town, there were Afro-Colombians there, just like anybody else. And nobody gave them a second thought. It was just like Afro-Colombian doing Afro-Colombian shit, doing normal people shit, shopping, looking nice. And the women, of course, they were beautiful, some lovely Afro-Colombianas, but they did not look like, I hate to say, but they didn't look like prostitutes, right? They did not look like prostitutes. They looked like just everyday black women doing everyday stuff. They didn't look like they were there to meet their clients or there to shop for product, special clothes to look good for their Instagram. They didn't look like that. They looked like normal people. So I was considering actually moving to Cali, but those plans are on hold for now. But yeah, there's definitely a difference between the Afro-Colombians on the coast and those in the interior.
Are you familiar with the YouTuber Where's Wes?
No.
He lives in, he was living in Manizales, but his wife split because it's like the whole family dynamic, I'll put it that way, which made things different for him, an Asian-American from LA. But he talked in, I think it was yesterday's video, about the women in different parts of the country. And he rated Barranquilla as being where he thought the most beautiful overall are. And he was talking about, like, here, how you've got this range, not as white as certain other places, but he was talking about and I've seen this too, the beautiful, not just the morenas, pero the Africanas.
Okay.
There are some beautiful women here, and but not just Barranquilla, the region, like you see in the islands.
Yeah.
Oof.
Well, of
some
course.
beautiful women.
Of course. I mean,
because they got those, because they probably, like, as opposed to in the United States, most people of African descent, they're mixed. They're mixed between their own kind. They're mixed between window noises from the wind. But you know, remember I shared those pictures of, I think they were one of the tribes of Nigeria, and just some beautiful people, beautiful features. But it's like I see here some of the same features in some of the people. Just that beautiful, natural, back to the motherland kind of beauty.
Well, I would say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
True, that's very true.
So I can't deny or affirm anything that people say about what people look like, because everything is subjective.
Sure.
What I can talk about is the behaviors and what I've seen, and what type of jobs I see them doing, and where I meet them, and how they treat me and how they behave.
And you got to bring up the trophy baby thing.
I think that's next.
Yeah.
And that's related.
Before we get to the dating part.
Yeah. Well, that's so
because this is the end of the last. So
yeah, it's all related. It's all related.
Sure it is.
So, like I said before, the country is colorist, is classist, it's racist based on classism.
And that goes all the way back to the Spanish colonial and French colonial
That could
days.
be a whole book.
Yeah, well, you're right.
For the next few hours. So, last thing I want to add about dating, about trying to date as a black man, as a middle-aged black man in Barranquilla, Colombia, is that so far I've only had access to well, let me start with a contrast. My pal Costa, a Caucasian, he's shorter than me, Caucasian, Greek, British guy, who's, I think he's in his early 30s. He has his pick of women who have jobs. He even told me about a woman he dated who didn't even ask for money for a taxi. She just paid her own way.
Wow, because that seems to be culturally the thing here.
Exactly. She didn't even ask money for a taxi. She had the job. She paid her way. They met up, hung out, had dinner, and she went home. He's met educated women who have jobs. In contrast, the only women who give me time of day are either prostitutes or the most desperate and hungry of the women. And they don't even look that good. Just the most desperate and hungry, who really don't have any other options or believe they don't, because this goes back to seeing the black man as completely worthless. Even if he has money, all they see him is an ATM. That's it. They don't care about, is he a loving person? Is he kind? Is he proactive? Can he help change my life in other ways? No. All they care about is, it's almost like they see, they're so desperate that they're willing to reach into dumpsters for cash.
Wow.
That's the analogy I would use, as opposed to Costa, who gets access to educated women who are, they exercise, they're working, or they're going to school, they're progressing their lives. Those women don't even want to talk. Those women are generally racist or classist, which shows itself as being racist, because they don't want to date down. Right? They don't want to date down unless they're super, super desperate for money. Then they'll have their options open and include a black man. Other than that, no. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're coming to Colombia thinking, you're going to find genuine love, keep that in mind. Oftentimes, genuine love is reserved for the white people. For black people coming to Colombia from abroad, especially if you don't know the language inside and out, it's going to be a whole different kind of worms. There's something to keep in mind. Keep your expectations low. If you get lucky and you meet an educated woman or a woman who's progressing her life or has a job and isn't looking at you as an ATM and isn't having multiple boyfriends and keeping you as the ATM, if you meet somebody who's genuine, you're lucky. Buy a lottery ticket, because you might win again.
Okay, we're going to continue this at another time, but I'd like to thank my friend here at Chinedu for a long, very informational interview. And we hope you enjoyed this, and hope you'll check out the next one. And
This was good. Cheers, buddy. Empty glasses.
And
we drank so much.
Yes. And if you enjoyed this, I hope you will subscribe to my channel and give it a like.
Yep.
And I will see you in my next video.
And check out my travel journal. It's about relocating, my experience relocating to Colombia, as well as my current ongoing experiences. Some are, as you can tell, some are more painful than others. Some are more frustrating. Some are also good. I've had some good
Some are funny.
Some are funny. Some are eye-opening, like the whole food thing. It's chinedu.oparasjourney.com,
And I'll have it in the description.
There'll be a
below.
link in the description. Check it out, and I hope it brings value to you. I hope it helps you in your relocation plans. That's it.
Thanks again. We'll see you
Peace.
next time. Peace. I hope you've enjoyed this video. And coming soon, Chinedu will be hosting a party of some friends, and we will pick up where we left off, really, with getting other people's opinions on dating in Colombia. Until next time, Eddie on the go.